Commitment, dedication. From the time we meet her until now, we will try a number of different.
You've been blessed with the opportunity to embody limitless potential. So imagine without limit. Let every action be deliberate. Don't get so caught up in who you are now. You're already better for wanting to be better.
I just want to quickly say that this video is sponsored by Skillshare. A huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video and also supporting this channel. Skillshare, if you haven't heard of them, are an online learning platform. They offer thousands of different courses and classes that you can take online. Recently, I've been attending a course called Creating Your Dream Career, which is all about unlocking and applying your creative strengths. It is by an amazing teacher called Holly Murchison. Huge shout out to Holly. You are a life changer. There are 8 different classes. I really recommend this course. Now, if you're interested in any of that, learning something a little bit different, the first 1,000 people to click the link in the top line of my description will get a free trial of the Skillshare premium membership. And then after that, it's only around $10 a month.
Commitment, dedication. From the time.
Hello. Welcome back to this, whatever the status of our relationship is at this point. I'm no longer a blonde. I went through 2 years of kind of being like I don't know who I thought I was. I literally don't know why I went through that phase. I'm very much a person that has phases in my life. It's like when I was like 14, I went through a year of wearing fedoras and waistcoats. I'm not lying. I have photographic evidence. I'm not going to show you. I weirdly feel more powerful as a brunette. I don't think that's for any reason. I'm sure actually that's probably because of some kind of weird male sexism about brunettes and blondes that's kind of bled its way onto me and my perception of myself and my own power. But, you know, we're not gonna start this video straight away by talking about the patriarchy. I have just talked about my hair for the first 30 seconds of this video, purposely, because I was trying to distract you from the fact that I've not made any content now in 7 months. Welcome back to this little safe space on the internet. If anyone's, I have this thing where sometimes I take like really like dramatically long breaks from making any content, and then before I upload again, I just assume that like no one is gonna watch anything because everyone's just kind of forgotten that I exist. Which, to be honest, like I'd be like, yeah, that's like, that makes sense, like that's fine. I wouldn't like, I feel like I wouldn't be offended by that. I'd kind of be like, you know what, let's all move on. I'm only really processing 2020 now. 2020 was really weird, and don't worry, I'm not going to talk about the pandemic and COVID for this video. I'm trying to provide context as to like why I'm mentally where I am now. I don't know how the pandemic was dealt with where you live. Actually, I do know. It was dealt better than the UK. Basically what we had was periods of hugely intense national lockdowns, and then we went through this weird like tier system where basically the higher the rate of COVID in your area, the more restrictions. So if you had loads of COVID in your area, you'd be in like a tier 4. If you had no COVID in your area, you could be in like a tier 2. And the higher your tier, the more restrictions you had on like who you could go and see. Now, when I explain it, that might make sense. But when you're like living in the moment and there isn't great communication of like how those tier system works, it's a little bit stressful. My point here is that 2020 was basically just one huge ride of adrenaline. I don't think I ever slept. I was always just like keeping an eye out for Selena. I was always kind of just like always awake. I didn't have a good night of sleep in 2020. I'm only starting to process it now. It's all kind of coming down on me quite fast.
Dedication. From the time we meet her.
I did research on my personality type. You might have heard of the Myers-Briggs personality test. I'm ENTP. But I kind of want to focus on the E, which stands for extrovert. I am definitely an extroverted person. Now, you could be watching this and you could also know you're an extrovert. You could know that you're an introvert. I probably have always known that I'm a bit of an extrovert. The reason why I know I'm an extrovert is because I feel at my most dynamic and at my most empowered and at my most energized when I'm around people and I'm working in a team environment and like we're all hustling together to get to this big deadline and goal, and it's very social. I think that's actually where I'm at my most successful. I mean, that's another reason why I chose the job I'm in. The idea of constant collaboration. And so I think something I've experienced a lot over the past 12 months now. How long has this been going on for? For a really long time, I lost a lot of my enthusiasm for life. That sounds really dramatic, and I'm going to explain that a bit more. I had huge amounts of imposter syndrome, which is something I've not experienced since I was at law school. And I've talked about it on this channel before, about not feeling like I'm qualified or good enough to be doing the job that I'm doing. I was apathetic towards things. I'd wake up in the morning and I just wouldn't really want to get out of bed. I felt really low for longer periods of time that I had ever experienced before. And at the same time as feeling all of that, there was less and less that I could distract myself with. You're alone in a room and you can't just go and catch up with mates and recharge. You can't have a catch up with your team at work and recharge. I think for the first time in a long time, I could no longer class myself as busy. I was no longer legitimately busy. I mean, I don't really believe in the word busy because I think busy is just personal prioritization of time. I no longer felt like I had that daily, weekly, monthly purpose, which actually, as humans, is so incredibly important, to feel like you're waking up to serve a purpose, to be somewhat of like a cog in the world machine, and that you are adding value. And so instead of being super busy, instead I think I had a lot of time to think about everything else that perhaps my previous busyness had distracted me from, and I had never realized that it had been distracting me from a lot of thoughts about who I was. The first lockdown was definitely when I had the first real acknowledgement and acceptance of my own sexuality, which maybe you weren't expecting this video to turn in that direction, were you? It's literally like, we're going in one direction. Whoop! I have known for quite a long time that I haven't been straight. I'm gonna try and explain what that means. I don't think I knew that I was queer, but I kind of, nothing ever worked out when I tried to date men in a very heterosexual way. It never worked out. I didn't therefore presume that I was gay. I don't think I acknowledged that for way too long, weirdly. For example, for me, I would just date men and just assume that that's what dating felt like. I would never have butterflies. I would never feel really nervous about someone or excited about someone, or I'd never really want to sleep with men. And I just thought, oh, like maybe that's me, maybe I'm broken. Like, you just put a lot of that blame on yourself because you just assume that's the way the world works and you don't fit into the world and therefore you're the problem. After I graduated, I went traveling and I moved to London, and I think I started putting the dots together a bit more. I was definitely surrounded by probably a more diverse group of people, and I had a lot more experiences of meeting people who were so confident in their sexuality that made me think, oh, that's probably what I am, that's probably why that's never worked for me. Now, for anyone watching this who maybe hasn't ever questioned their gender or their sexuality, I can't really describe how that can affect your sense of identity. I think it's because we live in an extremely cisgendered, heteronormative world, which means that if you're straight, great. As soon as you start to figure out that you're probably a bit different, you suddenly don't know what that means for who you are as a person. And so when it got to lockdown, March 2020, I dated girls. I dated girls for 1 to 2 years before that, but I had never fully ever given all of myself to anyone that I was dating because I hadn't fully accepted myself. And I think it took a freaking pandemic. It literally took a pandemic and too many hours in my own room to think, I cannot stop myself any longer from being happy and finding happiness with someone. And so I decided, after like a month of being locked down by myself, as soon as we had like slight restrictions at all on who we could see, that I was going to go on a date and I was going to try and be really confident in who I was and accepting of myself. And I did, and I now have a girlfriend, which is crazy and pretty cool. Like,
Once you decide to do it, you just do it. And anything you
I'm really excited for what we might make on this channel this year, and what we can talk about and what we can reflect on in the world. Some of the most significant economic, political and social events in like the last 20 years occurred, and I wasn't able to talk about them, and we weren't able to discuss it. So I'm formally inviting you back to this little safe space on the internet, and follow me on all my socials for updates on when those new little videos are out. But until then, we're going to keep thriving, and I will see you all very, very soon. Did I say soon? See you all very, very soon. Soon? Sun and moon.
Remember, you're only in competition with who you were. Every obstacle is an opportunity to dismiss who you've been, so if you're still unsure in who you are, you can always be certain in who you will be.